Hey, this is David Naughton, and you're listening to WithoutYourHead.com.
I think. Yeah. Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neal.
This is Annabelle Lecter.
And we're joined by actress, author, healer, which we'll talk about, motivational speaker, star of E.T, The Howling, I can name a million movies. Dee Wallace is on with us.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hey, great to have you. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, and we'll be seeing you in person, and hopefully a lot of people listening, at Texas Frightmare Weekend May 5th weekend. It's going to be good times.
I know. How exciting, huh? I love that con. It's one of my favorite cons to go to. And it's so huge that I went out and got a lot of new merchandise made. So
oh, very exciting.
I have this incredibly fabulous handmade Howling statue that I've added to my figurines. And I've got some awesome Cujo, Howling, and E.T. candles that I'm bringing. So there's some new stuff on the table. I finally got a thing made up for the original Hills Have Eyes because people always ask me for that. So there's a really cool thing we've done for that. So I hope everybody comes by the table, and I got some good stuff.
Yeah. You know, since, like I joked there about too many new movies today, but there are so many, big movies that you've been in. When you're at the convention, are there any particular favorites?
Well, sure. E.T., Cujo, The Howling, and then The Frighteners would be next. And then, surprisingly, a lot of my TV stuff that I've done recently, the guests I did on Supernatural, is like flying off the table, and Grimm. And I've really got some beautiful posters, too, guys. And I'm one of the few people who try and really keep my prices down for the fans. And all my posters go for the same price as my 8x10s. So It's a good table. You'll find something, I guarantee you. And, of course, I'm going to have my books and my little teddy bears that I created there. So a lot of fun stuff, yeah. But I love this con. It's so well run, so professionally done, always great talent, she says humbly. And, I'm just really excited to be back.
Yeah.
It really is. Neal and I we've made it like our Without Your Head convention because so many people we know go to it. So it's like our gathering spot. It's a great convention. And anybody who hasn't been, try to make it. Really, it's the cream of the crop. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it really is. I'd say the two top, probably in the nation is that and Chiller. So on the opposite ends, right? So no competition between the two of them either, and that's nice.
Definitely. It was funny. I think it was just yesterday. I got like a press release for a new Christmas horror movie, and I was reading it, and your name's on there. I was like, oh wow, she's on the show.
Oh my God, you're gonna love this movie, Red Christmas. I traveled down to Australia to shoot it.
Oh wow.
And first of all, I love Australia and I love the Aussies, but what Craig Anderson, the creativity that he did this little film with, and when he sent me the initial invite, I said, look, if it's a script that I can really do something with, I'm interested. And he sent it to me and he went, oh my God, it's like almost like another tour de force Cujo role. I got to do it just to see if I can still do it. And I did, baby. I pulled it off. We've been honored and won at a lot of the festivals already. So
there's
real standout things in the trailer. I specifically remember you come outside. You're like running around with, I don't remember if it was some kind of tool, and you suddenly stop. There's a police car, and there's some guy, and his head is in a giant bear trap.
Yeah.
It's weird. But it was very attention-grabbing, and it was something that's not leaving my mind easily, so...
Well, we did our job. No, this film will not leave your mind, believe me. It's incredibly creative. It even has social commentary about things that are going on in our world. It's different, and it's got some great talent in it. It's just a really tight little movie. My fans are going to love it.
Cool. I'm really looking for. I like Christmas horror movies in general. They're usually a lot of fun, and like I said, the trailer looked awesome. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Cool. Thank you. I hope everybody checks it out.
Yeah. No, we mentioned. Even you mentioned a bunch of different horror movies. What is it about you as an actor? Do you think that made you write for horror movies?
That made me what?
That like makes
right?
you right, makes you why do they see you as someone in a horror movie?
I think I have an inborn vulnerability about me, which is always great for horror films. And I'm guys, I'm just a good screamer. What can I say? I'm a good scream queen. And I have a pretty nice emotional life that I can work with, and I love playing big arcs, and I love playing emotional things, and horror and suspense films just automatically lend themselves to doing that. So I didn't go looking for horror films. I ended up in a couple, and all of a sudden I went, wow, I kind of like this ride, I kind of like this challenge. And they went, oh, I kind of like this actress. So a Scream Queen was born. I mean, I've done a lot of other stuff. I just have a beautiful little family series on right now on Amazon Prime called Just Add Magic, which is very sweet and very soft, and I play the grandmother, Choke. And, so I like to just go in and out of a lot of different things. But most of all, I like to really be challenged and go, wow, what can I bring to this? And,
What were you going to say, Annabelle?
Oh, just, I mean, as someone in an audience, you mentioned the vulnerability, and you just all your characters seem really nice, and you're a sympathetic character. There's a lot of people in movies that are getting hurt or killed or whatever, and maybe you like them, or maybe you don't care, or maybe you would be happy with them gone as soon as possible, but you are always, it's a pleasure to watch.
Well, thank you, Annabelle. And I think a lot of that has to do with the writing, too. We really knew how to do horror films in the 80s. And then horror films gradually became slasher films, where you didn't take time to learn about the characters and their interrelationships. It was like, here's our 6 characters. Watch how gruesomely we can whack them all to death really fast. Yep. And there weren't any stakes. And so, I always want to have that real heart connection that when you lose it, you are sad. There's something at stake for the audience there.
And you mentioned The Hills Have knew some stuff for The Hills Have Eyes, and The Hills Have Eyes, I just watched it recently when it was put out on Blu-ray, and they're really fighting for their lives in that movie. And what was it like working with young Wes Craven?
Oh, well, Wes was a beautiful man, very quiet, very much like the college professor that he was, kind of studious with the camera. I just remember him being a really, really nice, sweet man, taking on these ridiculous adventures that we were in. It was a very hard shoot. It was in the middle, of the desert, kind of, and very far from L.A., and we were all staying in one trailer, and, that's a lot of characters using one bathroom. I'll just leave it at that. And you died from the heat during the day, and it was freezing at night, and of course you couldn't change your wardrobe, So there were a lot of challenges, but a great beginning to what has been thankfully a very long career.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever have any filming environment more difficult than that?
Oh, honey, Cujo just about did me in. Actually, it did do me in for about 3 weeks. They treated me for exhaustion when we were finished. It was just a really, really hard shoot because it's me, a 6-year-old kid, and a dog, or one of 13 dogs, as the case may be. And so I had to be on all the time because when the kid and the dog happened to work together, they were going to print that sucker no matter what. And it was just 8 weeks of when do I cry, how much do I cry, how long do I break down. It was relentless. But it's the film that I've got to say I'm proudest of as far as my acting goes. Mm-hmm. I just feel like I went as far as I could go, as truthfully as I could go.
Mm-hmm. Was that a combination of physical and emotionally demanding, or was it one or the other more so?
No, I think it was a good combination of both. Yeah, because I did all of my stunt work in it except the big attack in the car. And Dan Blatt, our producer, was going to let me do it at the last minute. He said, "Yeah, Dee, if you get hurt, you're the money," and we go down, and so no. So the big attack scene in the car is me and the stunt guy and the stunt woman and the real dog. And the editing is so brilliant, you cannot tell which is which. Mm-hmm. And what happened was the stunt woman had all the dogs were trained to go after toys. And in order to get this fight scene, the stunt woman had to lunge forward and show this toy that was around her neck. And that was the dog's sign to lunge toward her, and she would pull back.
Wow. And
they got it in one take, and we heard print, and she went forward and went, "Yeah!" And nobody had the hands on the dog, and the dog went to get the toy and bit her nose off. Oh! Now, they picked it up and took her to the hospital and put it back on, and she was fine. But, Dan Blatt looked at me and said, "And that's why we didn't have you do it, Dee."
Wow.
Jeez.
I've never heard an interview where I've put my hands over my face with a shocked look, just my mouth agape, oh, wow.
Yeah, well, and it wasn't the dog's fault. The dog was doing what it was taught to do, so. But I ripped my arm up, putting my arm through the glass that wasn't supposed to break in the back of the Pinto. And, I came home every day with some new bruise somewhere. It was just a really tough shoot, but I'm really, really, really proud of my work in that film.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So would you agree with the old saying not to work with animals or kids?
Hell no. I wouldn't have had a career, would I? No. And I got to tell you, I love working with kids. They're real. They're in the moment. They connect with you. They don't have any agendas. I thanked God every day I got up on Cujo that I had Danny Pintaro. That kid was amazing. And all the kids, of course, in E.T., phenomenal. I really love working with kids, and I'm a nut for dogs. So the hardest thing on Cujo and Lassie that I did, the hardest thing was that I couldn't pet them and love on them and interact with them because they, just had to be there for the trainer, and their undivided attention had to be for the trainer. So that part was really hard for me because I just wanted to cuddle on them all the time. They're big babies, like those St. Bernards.
The people that have helper dogs, And you don't always know until you see like a collar or a jacket or something. And it's really hard because you want to be, if you're an animal person, you want to be friendly with whatever is around.
I always ask, and some people say, "Oh, sure, go ahead," and other people go, "No, she's a service dog." So, but I always ask because if I can get some pets in on a busy day of traveling in an airport, my day is better, baby.
Yeah. Do you have pets of your own?
Oh yes, always rescues. Always had doggies that are rescues, and we had a cat. For my daughter, she wanted a cat, and that cat just left after 16 years, passed on.
Oh.
And we've had mice, and we've had snakes, and we've had guinea pigs. You know, we did the whole childhood animal excursion in the bedroom.
So, yeah. So I went to see E.T. more than any movie growing up in the drive-in back when they had drive-ins. And so I obviously know how big it was, but for yourself, when E.T. comes out, I'm sure you knew it's going to be big anyway. But when you just see all the toys and cereal and everything, just like what was that experience like?
Well, I think first of all, you don't ever know it's going to be a big hit. That's up to the audience. You know you've got a good film, and you know you've got a heart-touching film. But if it's going to be a blockbuster, it depends on the marketing and the timing, and is the audience ready for it? Do they think it's sappy? It just depends on so much. So we knew we had a really special film, but when it came out, it was overwhelming to most of us. The love and the fervor and the craze. It was almost an E.T. craze, about how much people loved this film. And I have so many incredible stories of people's lives that were touched by this movie and are still, it's our Wizard of Oz. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like horror movies, but E.T. is, when I was growing up, was one of my favorite movies. It's, like you said, it's a special movie.
Well, you have good taste, Neal.
Well, thank you. Was there ever talks of doing a sequel to E.T.? I think if it would come out now, they would definitely do a sequel right away, since it was so, such a big movie.
Actually, Stephen came up to me on the set and said, Dee, what do you think about doing a sequel to this? And I said, Stephen, I think you should leave it the classic that it is.
Yeah.
And that's before I really even knew that it was going to be a classic. Yeah. Only the Godfathers have had sequels that were worth anything, in my estimation.
Mm-hmm.
So
I would say just one sequel, but yeah.
Well, I'm surprised because they, of course, could make an enormous amount of money, and maybe they'll still do it. I think if they do a sequel, he's got to come back to a different family, or maybe Elliot is grown and E.T. comes back to see Elliot's son or daughter or whatever. I hope. And then we could have a family reunion and Grandma could come visit.
Could you share one of the stories about someone that told you that the movie meant a lot to them, changed your life in some way?
Oh yeah, I was at a personal appearance, and this mom came up to me, and tears were just running down her little cheeks, and she said, Dee, I want you to know that you're part of a miracle in my life. My son is autistic. He was 10 years old. I had never heard him speak, and I took him to watch the re-release of E.T., and on the way home, he said every line that E.T. had said in the movie, and she had never heard him speak a word. Now, and she looked at me and she said, and that, Dee, is a miracle in my life.
Wow.
It was very, very touching. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I had a kid a young man come up to me and say, Miss Wallace, when E.T. came out, I'm from a small town, and my parents had just gotten divorced, and I was kind of an outcast. And then E.T. came out, and Elliot was in a single home, and all of a sudden, it was like everybody had permission to be friends with me again, and it really saved me. So you never know how our work is going to touch somebody,
Yeah. That's awesome. And, we had some questions here on Facebook about E.T. I'll just ask a couple of them. Raymond wants to know, what color Reese's Pieces are your favorite?
My favorite is the chocolate peanut butter inside. That's my favorite. But my favorite color is blue. But I don't think they've got a blue one, do they?
I don't think. I think they. I don't know.
I think it's just yellow, orange, light brown, and dark brown. And they're
I think so too.
So good.
Yeah,
because E.T., everybody freaking ate Reese's Pieces.
And and I'm pretty sure that I'm right about this, not 100%, but I think they took it to M&M's first, and M&M's turned it down. And said, no, we don't think we should be associated with an alien. And I thought, whoever made that decision probably was out of a job the day after the movie came out, right?
I have to say, I'm very happy it's Reese's Pieces because I think they're a superior candy.
I love Reese's Pieces. Yeah. Peanut butter and chocolate doesn't get better than that.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of spell, sales must have shot out the roof too.
Yes. Let's see here. I read that you when you made the Howling, that like it had a slightly different ending. That you actually didn't turn into the werewolf at the end. Is that true?
That is true, and I was shooting Cujo. And I got a call that, they had shown it to the audience, and the audience's cards all said, we want Dee to turn into a werewolf. Well, I had it in my contract that my character would never be seen as a werewolf. For some reason, back in the 80s, that seemed to be important for actors. So, Joe Dante called me and explained it to me, and I said, Joe, I'm shooting. He said, oh, we don't need you. We're going to do animatronics. So that's not me. That final little Bambi werewolf is all animatronics. But I said, could you please make it a little more vulnerable because she has fought so hard? I don't feel like she should turn into one of those horrific, scary werewolves. And so they came up with that little Bambi werewolf at the end. And, I'd forgotten about that. But that's how it went down, yeah.
So when you saw the finished movie for the first time, what did you think of the ending?
Oh, I liked it. I thought it was cute. I thought it had Joe's sense of humor that was throughout a lot of it with the cartoons, and stuff. And Joe Dante brought so much to that film that people probably will never know. He paid for all those cartoons and stuff himself because he thought it would increase the worth of the movie, and he was right. He brought in all those old iconic actors and looked through and looked up all of there's so many references that only werewolf fans would get, know. And he was just, what he brought to that shoot, just took it from a B film to an A film, I felt.
Mm-hmm. That was like the year of the werewolf, when it was like Howling came out, American Werewolf in London, and Wolf and all the same year.
I'm not sure about that. I know London came out right after us, and I was very upset that they took special effects instead of Rob. because I really do believe The Howling was better, and we had 1.3 million, and they had something like 13
right,
to work with.
Wow.
Yeah. I felt like Rob really got robbed on that one.
Mm-hmm. There's also, I think it's on the DVD, is an interview with you at the time with The Howling, or maybe a little bit after, but it's around the time. And he talked about to get into the role, and other people talked about it too, that like you were genuinely scared at different times on the set.
Oh yeah, I get into my stuff pretty far. And, I used to get into it a lot further than I do now because, for example, I had to be treated for exhaustion for 3 weeks.
Yeah, right.
But I really feel that it's the actor's job to really go there, and if you really go there, the audience has to go there with you. I don't like to cheat my fans in any way. So I try to be really present, not faking the emotion, doing as many of my physical stunts as I can do. It's just the kind of actor I am, so.
Mm-hmm. Which one of your movies do you think is the scariest?
Wow, that's a good question. I think they're scary in different ways, I mean, Cujo's scary because it's something in life that could actually really happen. Gosh, I don't know. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that question before.
Really?
Obviously, because I don't have a flippant answer for it.
Uh-huh.
I think probably the scariest would be The Howling.
Yeah.
Because the Frighteners had so much comedy in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Howling's scary. I'm a werewolf movie fan, and anytime I watch The Howling, there's something about it. I don't know. I know some of the werewolves look different, and that's fine. I think that they are scary as hell, especially the one because you first meet Eddie, and you meet him in like a dirty movie theater, and there's that flashing strobing camera light.
Yeah.
And you don't, as the audience, we don't see the transformation right away, and you're not remembering it, and there's some way that they make that happen over the course of the movie where you're realizing more and more and more along with your character. So as the audience, we're in parallel, and it's just, I don't know, something about it, the way it's acted, the way it's shot, and the score for it. It's really...
Yeah, the score was beautiful.
Yeah.
And, isn't that the magic of the movie, though, is when everybody comes together in that successful collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the magic of it. When somebody has so much ego or so much control that they don't want to give anybody else the freedom to bring in their ideas, I think everything suffers greatly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And are you yourself a fan of horror movies?
I am a fan of some horror movies.
Right, yeah.
One of my favorite movies is The Exorcist.
Oh, yeah.
Another movie that just freaked me out the first time I saw it was Don't Look Now. And it's all psychological, playing with your head. You hardly really ever see anything, but because of that, it gets more frightening and more frightening.
Yeah.
So those kind of films, the films that I can really believe, are more frightening to me than a monster.
Mm. What made you want to become an actor?
Oh, hell, honey, I was born. That's my best answer I can give you. I'm sure I was dancing and acting in the womb. And I for sure can tell you that my daughter Gabrielle Stone was, because I have a sonogram where she's just pointing her toes and waving her arms and dancing around in there. But I think, truly, I just was born to do this, and I was born to create. We're all born to create. Some of us do it through math and science, and some of us do it through the arts. But my mom was an incredible actress in community theater in Kansas and in our church. She was really my first teacher. I learned so much watching her and how she affected an audience. I remember sitting in church and watching her do this 30-minute reading called The Crucifixion at Easter and thinking, I want to do this. I want to touch people like my mommy is touching. People were crying all around me, and my grandmother was an incredibly creative artist. I have her paintings up all over my house. My dad was very creative businessman, but he also did inventions and stuff. And so I think it was just like, I'm going to go be born into that family because all those guys like to create a whole lot. And that's what I want to do in this lifetime. So I really don't think I ever had a choice. I wanted to go to dance class the minute I could walk, and was determined when I got out to New York. I was determined to learn how to sing well enough that I could actually do a musical, because I always wanted to do a musical, and I did finally do Annie Get Your Gun at Starlight Theater, which is like 5,000 seat open air theater. Mm-hmm. And I just like to crawl into that place that we get to go as artists and lose who we are and become either the dance or the character or the poem, or I like to leave me and be that.
Mm-hmm. That's a good answer.
As you mentioned stage performing, for you, I'm sure that there's different things you like about both, and not one is necessarily better than the other. But what are those things that you like about each? What are those?
What I like about doing film is that if I go up on my lines, I just do another take. If I don't like what I do or I think I can do it better, I just do another take. You don't have that freedom on stage. And maybe that's why a lot of people that come out from New York go, well, film and TV, that's not real acting. But I don't like the high of being scared to death that I'm going to go up. Yeah. I don't like it. Mm-hmm. I like the assurance of knowing that I'm safe to be able to do it again if I want to. Yeah. And usually I don't. Usually I get it on one take. And then I don't want to do any more when they want me to do more. And I would always, I have to tell you, I'd rather do film than TV these days. There's just too much control in TV, and actors aren't given the freedom of expression that they always have been before, and unless you're a very big actor on a very big series and you have an understanding up front, But I want the freedom to be able to walk on and go, this line doesn't work for me. Yeah. And have somebody, and all the big directors I've ever worked with go, oh, okay, Dee, well, what works for you? Or why doesn't it work for you? And then we work it through, right? On TV, I'm sorry, that's the way the writers wrote it. That's the way we're doing it. And I just think that's bullshit. I think it's bullshit. It's a creative community, and everybody's got to put in their best.
I'm sure if you end up talking with whoever you're working with, and you work through it together, even if you end up doing whatever it is they wanted you to do, you will go forward doing it and feeling good about it, not doing it because you're forced to.
Yeah, but I do it because I'm a professional, and it limits what I can bring through the character. Because, we can't do it without great writing. We can't be great without great writing, and oftentimes there's stuff that channels through us that the writer can't find.
Yeah.
And sometimes the director will give me a direction. I'll go, oh my God, that's fabulous, thank you. And sometimes the director will give me a direction. I'll go, what? No, I can't do that. Well, why? And then I'll explain why. And 9 times out of 10, they'll go, oh, I get it. She wouldn't do that. Exactly. Every major director, Peter Jackson, Steven Spielberg, Blake Edwards, Lewis, Joe, all of them, things would happen on the set that I didn't even know was going to happen during the take. Tears would come, or, I'd get up and leave, and they would see that moment and expand on that moment as a director and add something or change something. Every major big shot director that I've worked with knows that that's where you find the gold.
Yeah.
They know that. And they put their egos aside because they're secure in themselves so that they can allow the other creatives to come in and put in their input.
That's fantastic. That's a great way of understanding it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I know there's films that you hear about, like, I know I like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I wonder what would have happened, because you hear, like, terrible stories about Tobe Hooper and how controlling and crazy he was. And other people as well. There's reputations out there, but yeah, like you're mentioning, I don't know, it's like there are people that actors want.
I worked with Tobe.
Yeah.
I didn't have that experience with Tobe at all. I loved working with Tobe. I did a movie of the week called The Woman in the Red Dress with him. Yeah, so I'm sure there are people out there that would say, oh my God, Dee Wallace, what a bitch. You want to hear some stories? Because, we're human, and when we get into these really, really dark, heavy places that we have to go, sometimes it affects you.
Yeah.
And you can't always just hop out of it, right? I'll tell you, my mother, years after I did 10, I was talking about how I used to always get into my parts too much. And she said, oh, let me go get these letters. And she brought out some letters that I had written to her while I was shooting 10, and I read them, and I went, oh, my God, Mom, this isn't me. This is Mary Lewis. She said, I know. But it's crazy, You got to give actors a break, especially in roles like Cujo, where it takes a lot to be that intense and that emotional, and then have somebody sitting next to you cracking jokes. I can't work that way. Yeah. I wish I could, but somebody mistakenly shot off a gun right before we were doing a big gun scene in the Howling, and I had already taken myself into La La Land, and I lost it. I absolutely lost it for about an hour. I was hysterical. Wow. Because I was already there. I knew when it was supposed to come in the scene, but you're like a dam, You build it up and build it up and build it up because you know when the dam has to break in the scene. And then something like that happens. I probably said every 4-letter word my mother wished she had never heard come out of my mouth. Right? And I was crying and hysterical. But, sorry, folks, that's what I've got to do to be the actor and the character in the movie that affects everybody. And sometimes when the camera isn't rolling, it still happens, you know?
You mentioned your mother a few times, and that last story about the letter she brought out is really touching. You mentioned wanting to be born into this family full of performers. How was that for you throughout the development of your career to have this person, and who you've mentioned in particular, your mother, be there to give you those moments of support?
Oh my God, it was everything. And I was so pleased and proud that one of her big dreams was that she actually had a SAG card and she was a real actress. And I had a series called Together We Stand, and I went to the executive producer. I said, I want my mom to do a scene. She's a really good actress. You have to trust me. And Al Burton, I love him to death, he said, okay, Dee, and we flew her out, and she did a scene, and she got her SAG card. And then I did the new Lassie for him. We flew her out. She did a scene, and she would call me, and she had it framed. She had her SAG card framed. And, I mean, it just, to be able to do that, for the person whom, I remember when I first got to New York, and I got a thing called the Milliken Show, which all the best dancers and gypsies were in it. Mm-hmm. And I called her, and I was hysterical. I said, Mommy, I can't learn the dances. I don't understand why I can't learn these dances. I had taught dance for 5 years before I went to New York. Wow. And she took a breath, and she said, Dee Dee, pretend that you have to teach those dances. Well, that turned around the whole thing for me. That night, I pretended that I was teaching that to my students. The next day I went in, had all the dances down.
That's awesome.
And now I'm having the same relationship with my daughter, Gabrielle Stone, who just won Best Actress for her first short film that she co-wrote, co-produced, and co-directed. And getting to walk that journey with her and do films with her, and it's just awesome. It's the great joy of my life that I got to have that with my mommy, and now I get to have it with my daughter.
You've taken me around the world in emotions throughout this. I'm all smiling and happy. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of who I am. Mm-hmm. Basket of emotions.
Well, we look forward to seeing you at Texas Frightmare.
Oh, and wait, if you still have time, speaking of emotions, can you tell us more about the I Am Dee Wallace and what you do outside of acting? I'm really curious.
Yes, I'm a clairaudient channel. I have a huge healing practice with people all around the world that I do. And basically, I teach people how to lose their bullshit, guys. How to, because I really do believe that the only people that are in our way are us. Yeah. We want to keep telling our stories. We want to keep limiting ourselves by stuff that happened to us that just doesn't matter anymore. Instead of going, okay, it happened, it's done. My dad committed suicide. He shot himself in the head. Wow. If I'm going to use that as an excuse not to be the powerful person and the happy person that I am right now, then that's my doing, not his. Wow. And so it's really a tough love, but if anybody's interested, they should call in. It's free every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Just go to my website, iamdeewallace.com, and you can click on it, and it will take you right to my how to get on my radio show. You can call in with any question about health or money or success. Where is my block? I don't understand why this is happening. You will learn a whole lot from those shows. My channel is pretty extraordinary, if I do say so myself. So, yeah, I have 5 books out. on the subject. Bright Light is my kind of autobiography through all the big films that I've done, and the spiritual lessons I've learned along the way. So it's a whole other side of Dee. And when I'm not acting, I do 3 or 4 personal sessions a day from all around the world. It's pretty awesome.
Listening to you just now, because all of that's great, and I'm going to check it out even more than I already have. But listening to you, I'm thinking, man, she just sounds like she's smiling the whole time, and it makes sense for her to do this because she's so positive, and it sounds like her life she's really been strong throughout the whole thing. But the smiling part made me think of someone else who is on the show tonight, and that is Nicholas Vince. Do you remember him from conventions? Because he remembered.
Oh, sure.
You. And when
yes, he asked us to say hello to you. Yeah.
And, give him a big hello back.
And something else that came up is someone had asked him, because he's so rosy and beautiful, is what he does for skincare, and he went on about Nivea cream and moisturizer, and we said that would be a cool question to ask people. So he wanted us to ask you, what are your beauty secrets?
Ivory soap and Almay cream. That's about as simple as it gets. Yeah, look, I was blessed. My mother had beautiful skin. I have beautiful skin. I've never smoked. I don't drink too much because my dad was an alcoholic. I exercise. I think a lot of it is how you take care of yourself from the inside. But the more BS I lose of me, the more fears I conquer, the more judgment I let go of, the more I forgive, the lighter my energy gets, and the younger I am.
That's
very nice.
It's the truth.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. It's a pleasure having you on tonight.
It was great, guys. Thanks for some new questions. It was a lot of fun.
Excellent. We'd like to hear that, too. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll see you in Texas.
Yeah.
And we'll see you in Dallas.
All right.
Definitely. Yep. I couldn't make it last year. I got sick, so I'm looking forward to this year.
Yeah, well, good. It'll be better because I'm there.
Exactly.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Hi, this is Dee Wallace from E.T. and Cujo, and you're listening to Without Your Head.